Beasley Allen Report with your host, Gibson and Vance, and special guest attorneys and legal experts discussing the important legal issues that affect you. Brought to you by the Beasley Allen Law Firm, one of the largest personal injury firms in the nation, and founded by former Lieutenant Governor Jerry Beasley. This is the Beasley Allen Report. Now, here's your host, Gibson Vance.
Welcome to the Beasley Allen Report. When insurance fraud is discovered, oftentimes it takes legal action to resolve the issue. This week, my law partner, Shaul, joins me to discuss how to deal with insurance companies. Now, Roman, welcome back to the show, and we've talked about insurance companies before, and they're good insurance companies, and sometimes they're not so good insurance companies. And the one thing that's consistent is that when an insurance company is selling you a policy, they want you to pay your premiums, but sometimes when it's time to file a claim, they're not quite as anxious to pay the policy.
That's right, Gibson. As you pointed out, I mean, there are some insurance companies that are reliable and that when you need them, they're there. But there are a group of insurance companies, a subset, if you will. They try to make money off you when you pay your premium, and then they try to make money off of you when it's time to pay a legitimate claim. And unfortunately, in a state like Alabama, where we don't have really strong consumer protection laws, we see a lot of claims that should be paid. They're right down the middle of the road, what we call middle-of-the-road claims that should be covered.
Well, that's a fact. We've practiced law together for many years, and let's start the show by telling our viewers a little bit about you, Roman. I know, of course, you grew up in Tuscaloosa and went to school there. Let our viewers know basically how you got into the practice of law and specifically how you gravitated towards insurance bad faith.
You know, that's a pretty interesting question or topic for me personally, because I'd always planned on going to medical school. But then my senior year of high school, literally about 7 days after Christmas, our house burned down. We lost everything. It was a complete loss. And my parents battled the insurance company for about 3 years, trying to just get them to give us enough money to rebuild the house. Ultimately, they didn't even do that. It was incredibly frustrating for me, but more so with my parents. And I have 3 younger brothers, and it was really tough on us moving from house to house. And at that point is when I decided, you know what, I'm not going to go to medical school. I'm going to go to law school, and I'm going to try to help people that were in the same situation as me and my family.
Well, of course, you went to undergraduate at the University of Alabama, and you went on a debate scholarship.
That's correct. I did. I was fortunate enough to be given a scholarship, and that helped me pay for school. And we had a pretty successful team. I like to tell people that, you know what, the debate team at Alabama actually has more national championships than the football team, but you know, most people aren't concerned about that.
Yeah, it's hard to get a big crowd to a debate tournament, I would imagine. But you, of course, went to law school at the University of Alabama. You've been with the firm 15 years. 15 years, and
yeah.
What all have you done while you're at the firm?
Well, I came to Beasley Allen in 2000 and was assigned to the Consumer Fraud Department. And, you know, pretty much from day one, I've been handling consumer fraud claims against insurance companies, against finance companies. We also handle some employment cases, some class action employment cases, and we also handle whistleblower or KETAM cases.
Now, you spent probably the last 6 or 7 years of your life, Roman, leaving and coming back to the Atlanta airport or the Montgomery airport, representing the state of Alabama and several other states against pharmaceutical businesses from all over the world. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Sure. That is, it is consumer fraud, but it's in a different context. In that situation, state attorney generals from around the country have hired us kind of because of our expertise in consumer fraud. But what we do is we don't go after the insurance company for one individual person. We are actually representing the entire state and all of its citizens, and we try to recoup tax dollars that have been wasted or misspent. Usually it's a situation where an insurance company or a pharmaceutical company has overbilled the government, and we go to try to recoup those taxpayer dollars for the state and for the citizens of that state.
A lot of frequent flyer miles.
Unfortunately, yes.
Well, we're going to talk about insurance companies, specifically bad faith failure to pay. When we get back from this very short commercial break, you're watching the Beasley Allen Report, my law partner, Roman Shaul.
The Beasley Allen Law Firm, helping those who need it most since 1979.
And everybody that comes to us, they have a problem of some sort. Oftentimes it's a death, oftentimes a very serious injury, terrific economic losses, disability. And you got to get to know the clients, and you really got to know who they are, know their families, know where they came from, their lifestyles, and you really just want to put yourself in a position to, when they leave this office, they'll be in much better shape than when they got here. And we just want to put them back as close to where they were before the event happened that brought them to us. And we have worked hard to make sure that we really help folks. And we don't represent any of the big corporations. We don't try to represent them. We want to help folks who need help.
Helping those who need it most since 1979. At Beasley Allen, our motto says it all. We not only serve others in the courtroom, but through our cases, we make a difference for people throughout the country. Our victories often result in corporations creating safer workplaces and manufacturers making safety changes in their products. The Beasley Allen attorneys, investigators, and support staff work together to find the hidden cause behind an accident or injury. See how Beasley Allen has been helping others at BeasleyAllen.com.
The Beasley Allen Report with your host, Gibson and Vance, and special guest attorneys and legal experts discussing the important legal issues that affect you. This is the Beasley Allen Report. Now, here's your host, Gibson Vance.
Welcome back to the Beasley Allen Report. My guest is my law partner, Roman Shaul. We're talking insurance bad faith. Roman, let's start at the beginning. What is bad faith?
Well, bad faith is when in an insurance context or a service contract, the company is obligated to do something, usually to cover a claim because you've had some type of loss or a product has broken down, and they don't fix it or they don't pay the claim like they're supposed to. And so what we call that is they have entered into that contract in bad faith.
Well, basically, I guess it's a contract. You have to have a contract first, in this case, an insurance contract. And, you know, there can be a legitimate disagreement as to whether or not an item is covered. We've all had that. If you had a hailstorm and you had damage to your roof, or if you had a pipe leak, there could be legitimate questions about whether the policy, the contract, covers the loss. But we're not really talking about that. We're talking about when an insurance company defies their own contracts and for no reason other than profit, they decide they don't want to pay the claim.
That's right. And let me dispel one little myth for a second. I mean, we are talking about insurance contracts primarily, but things that are also covered under Alabama law are people will buy extended warranties or service contracts. So those are kind of construed as insurance policies. So although you don't think about them being an insurance policy, under Alabama law, a lot of times they are. But that's exactly right. You know, the insurance company makes money when they charge you the premium. They're not supposed to make money by denying legitimate claims. And, you know, we see situations where a house may burn down and an insurance company will come in and claim that's arson. Well, there's no evidence of arson. There's no reason for anyone to torch their own house in a certain situation, and they'll just deny the claim, alleging it's arson. A lot of people are familiar with Hurricane Katrina, when insurance companies were saying, oh, well, you know, that's water damage and it has to be wind damage, and we're not going to cover it because it's water damage. Well, it wasn't water damage. It was wind damage way before it became water damage, and under the policy, the clear language, it should be covered. It should be a covered claim.
Well, you made a very interesting point for our viewers there, Roman. We all think of the traditional insurance policies. You need insurance. You're required to have insurance for your car. You certainly need it on your home if you're buying your home, or renter's insurance if you're renting. And what other, you know, health insurance and disability perhaps. But day in and day out, if you're buying a service warranty, that could be a subject matter also for bad faith. So I've never really thought of it that way, but you see that all the time.
We do. We see it a lot. And so when people go to take out a car loan, a lot of times you're offered an extended warranty. Or if you go and buy a refrigerator or a DVR or a DVD player or something, you're offered a service contract with that. And under Alabama law, a lot of those have been construed to be insurance contracts. So you can certainly have bad faith in a context where there's not insurance proceeds at issue. And pretty much any consumer good you purchase these days, that you will be offered a service contract or an extended warranty on those items. And the reason is because they're very lucrative for the people selling them. You know, they want those premium dollars, but when it comes time to file a legitimate claim and to pay legitimate claims, that's unfortunately where you have a lot more bad faith than you should.
You know, there's certainly, as we said, good insurance companies locally throughout the state. A lot of times the ones that are misbehaving are small companies most people have never heard of. From out of state that are just not doing what they should do. I remember the John Grisham movie where the end of the day the policy of the insurance company was to deny everybody, and ultimately most would go away and some you may have to pay in a lawsuit, but they had calculated you could just make more money by denying everything. How realistic is that?
It's very realistic. I mean, we've had cases where, particularly in a disability policy context, we had an insurance company who is hiring a doctor to come in and review medical records and to say, you know what, I know you claim to be disabled and your doctors back in your hometown say you're disabled, and I know you go to Birmingham and they're specialists, and those specialists from Birmingham say that you're disabled. But you know what, we hired this doctor who is from some state, about 4 states over, and because he said you're not disabled, we don't think you're disabled either, and we're not going to pay your claim. You know, that's one example that we saw repeated on numerous occasions. And so it's very common. It's very common. You mentioned earlier about some insurance companies being better than others. You know, the state of Alabama does a good job of keeping a list of insurance companies that are in this state, how long they've been in this state, the number of policies they're writing. So there's information out there to figure out which ones are the better insurance companies and which ones aren't.
And that's important, and that's open to the public. The public can have access to that. And, you know, if you would be prudent to check those things out, to figure out which insurance companies have had the most complaints or most lawsuits against them, and do your best to stay away from them. Is there one type of insurance that is more prevalent when you're looking at bad faith? Well,
what we've been seeing a lot, and if you look at the demographics of the United States, it makes sense. I mean, we obviously see bad faith in insurance dealing with homes, insurance dealing with cars, but more and more we're seeing long-term care health insurance bad faith. And so long-term care policies were started in about the 80s, and a long-term care policy generally covers chronic illness or disability that needs, that the person needs daily care for an extended period of time. And what happened was in the early 80s, when they started creating these policies and charging premiums, they didn't know how much health care was going to explode, and the cost of health care was going to rise at an increasing rate over time. And so when they designed the policies, they didn't capture in how much it was going to cost in today's dollars. And what we've seen is that some of these long-term care policies, when you need them the most, in your later years, when you need the care, they're not covering the things that they promised that they would care for. And it's because they did a poor job on the front end, and they're trying to save money by denying legitimate claims on the back end.
Didn't we see the same type of activity in some cancer insurance policies where they promised to pay for whatever the cancer treatment cost, and as we all know, the cost of medical care and specifically cancer treatment had gone up so high that they stopped paying as they should.
That's exactly right. We did see that in the cancer policy context, and there were actually a couple different things going on there. One, you had an exploding cost of oncology drugs, and the insurance company didn't want to pay for all those oncology drugs, even though people were benefiting from them, and it was drugs that literally they needed to stay alive. They were denying legitimate claims, calling them experimental when no doctor was calling them experimental. The doctors were saying, these things work on my patients. And then secondarily, what we saw in the cancer context was that they would take a group of people who either had cancer or had a higher likelihood of getting cancer, putting them in one group and separating the people who had low incidence of cancer. And the people who were predisposed to cancer were paying so much for their life insurance that they couldn't afford it. They were literally getting phased out of the policy because they kept raising their insurance premiums.
Now, as you said, with the demographic change, the baby boomers coming of age, the long-term health care is really going to be an area that would be ripe for this type of activity.
There's no question about that. I mean, there's, you know, with the Affordable Care Act being up in question as to what is going to be covered versus what is not going to be covered, you have a lot of people that says, you know what, I'm not going to rely on the government, I'm going to go out there and secure my own insurance. And so we see a lot of that. And more people these days are going out and buying these policies. And the problem is that if you don't do your due diligence on the front end, deal with an insurance company that has a good reputation, go to an agent that can write for more than one company so you don't get stuck with just one company's product. You have more companies to choose from. If you don't do that due diligence on the front end, there can be some unfortunate consequences on the back end.
That's a very good point. And once again, the Alabama Insurance Department is a good resource for that. Quite often we ask our viewers to email us if they have questions. And this is really a popular subject because so many people are dealing with insurance companies as just a part of their daily life. So we've gotten several good questions, and we're going to go to our Q&A section right now.
The Beasley Allen Report Q&A with Gibson Vance. You ask, we answer. Email your questions to gibson@beasleyallen.com and watch the Beasley Allen Report for answers to your questions. The Beasley Allen Report airs Sunday nights following WSFA 12 News at 10 and Monday nights on Bounce TV on WSFA 12.2. And now, here's Gibson Vance with Q&A on the Beasley Allen Report.
Okay, Roman, our first email question comes from Mark. He writes, what are some examples of bad faith, and how would I know if I'm being treated unfairly by my insurance company?
Well, it's a great question, Mark. And we talked a little bit about the long-term care situation, and we talked about the cancer policy situation. But a more common situation is if you have damage in your home due to hot water heaters bursting. You could have storm damage. Anything like that is an example of filing a claim on your insurance company that could possibly be denied. And I think probably the best thing to do is when you take out your insurance policy, or when you first buy the insurance, keep a copy of the policy. Keep the policy in a safe location so that you can reference it. You would be surprised at how often an insurance adjuster will come in and say, you know what, I don't think this is a covered claim. And if you've got your insurance policy, even though they're complicated, a lot of times you can go pull that policy out, read through it, and you can show that insurance adjuster and say, see there, I think this is a covered policy, without even contacting a lawyer or anything. That shows that adjuster that you know what you're talking about, that you're at least not going to accept what they say at the beginning without looking through it. And if that doesn't work and you still think that it's a covered claim, call a lawyer.
You know, that's a great answer, Roman, and so many people are intimidated by dealing with insurance companies. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, for you and I to sit down as lawyers and read the contracts, it will sometimes make your eyes spin. But just because an insurance adjuster tells you it's not covered, by no means are they correct every time. Sometimes it's their opinion, sometimes they're just trying to mislead you. Our next question comes from Rob. He asks, what can I do if my insurance company denies my claim, and can I sue my insurance company for trying to deny and delay my legitimate claim? I think I know the answer, but go ahead.
Yeah, you certainly could file a lawsuit against your insurance company for not paying a legitimate claim. It's always important, and we encourage people to try to work it out in the beginning if you're being treated fairly. Sometimes it is just an honest difference of opinions. You're emotionally attached to something, you think it's worth more than what it actually is, and sometimes if you take a step back, you can look at a situation and see, well, is it really worth this? And in a fair situation, sometimes you may make the decision to just compromise on that. But by compromising a little bit, you shouldn't get railroaded or run over. If it's a big claim and you feel strongly about it, certainly call a lawyer before you make any decision, before you sign any paperwork. Don't sign any paperwork or any releases, because once you do that, a lawyer may not be able to help you. If you sign a release with the insurance company saying, okay, I'll take this, but I may come back after you later to see if this doesn't get better, you can't do that a lot of times. You can't come back after you sign some of these documentation.
That's a very good point. Okay, our final question comes from Audrey. Why do insurers commit bad faith, and why do they get away with it?
You know, Audrey, it's one of those things where you have to follow the money. Sometimes, again, there are great insurance adjusters out there that do right by their customers, but sometimes adjusters get paid by the amount of money that they can retain for the company. There's a bonus structure where if they can save the company X amount of money, they get a bonus. And then there are other situations where the insurance company as a whole has done a very poor job of taking your premiums and investing them and making money, and because they didn't do that correctly, they now want to make money off of you by denying legitimate claims. That's the reason they do it. It's a financial incentive for them, and unfortunately, there are good companies and there are bad companies, and the bad companies tend to be very bad.
Okay, stay with us. We'll be back right after this very short break.
The Beasley Allen Law Firm, helping those who need it most since 1979.
I represented two elderly ladies from in Dale County, Alabama. One was 79 and another one was 82. And an unscrupulous insurance agent would regularly come by their house and sell them insurance. Both ladies were suffering from mild dementia, and he sold them, over a 5-year period, 39 different insurance policies and took every bit of their savings out of their savings account. And my partner, Jerry Beasley, and I tried that case, and they settled at trial for a substantial amount of money. That case is what we do. We take people who have these circumstances. They didn't know how to correct that problem. No one in their family knew how to correct that problem. And they went out and got a lawyer who could help them, and we were able to help them.
Helping those who need it most since 1979. The Beasley Allen motto not only applies to the clients we serve, but also to our community. With an award-winning website at BeasleyAllen.com, the firm provides up-to-the-minute information about consumer issues, including recalls, alerts, and other public safety updates. Potential clients learn more about issues related to their case and gain direct access to our attorneys. See how Beasley Allen has been helping others at BeasleyAllen.com.
Welcome back to the Beasley Allen Report. My guest is my law partner and Beasley Allen attorney, Roman Shaul. We're talking about insurance. More specifically, we're talking about what you can do when the insurance company doesn't pay when they're supposed to. Now, we alluded to this during the Q&A section, but really, a lot of times people will try to file a claim and their insurance adjuster may say it's not covered, and the person is intimidated and they just give up. And now, as lawyers, it's easy for us to say what you need to do, but for a layperson who is unskilled in contracts and unskilled in legal matters and something as complicated as insurance, what would you recommend? Your parents went through the same ordeal.
That's right. Well, insurance contracts are written on purpose to be complicated. They want the wiggle room in there. I mean, it's, you know, there's a joke that if you ask 10 different lawyers what this insurance policy means, you'll get 10 different answers. But like I mentioned earlier, I think it's really important for you to keep your insurance papers. Keep a copy of your policy. The insurance company is required to give you a copy. And when you have a claim, don't just file the claim. Go look at it before you file the claim, because you may be entitled to more than what you even know you're entitled for. It could be the case that you're entitled not just for to recoup money for the damage, but maybe lost wages. Maybe you've got to hire someone to take your kids to school, or maybe you have to get a rental car or something. So look at your policy first, and before you file the claim, because the insurance adjuster might not tell you that you're entitled to more than what you actually are.
Well, so you have a loss, say you have water damage, a pipe burst in your house, and you call the insurance company, you look at your policy, you don't really understand it because it is so complicated. At what point do you need to get a lawyer involved? And of course, we always have to keep in mind that the person you're talking to, these insurance companies have lawyers advising them, and they've been through this maybe a dozen times that day, and it's all new to you. But at what point do you reach out and ask for help?
Well, it's a good question. First off, what we tell our clients is if there's a situation, whether it be in some type of water leak or something like that, take care of the problem first. Don't live in unhealthy, unsanitary conditions. Don't let a situation that's bad in your home get worse. Make sure the family's safe. Make sure the family's protected. Then if you need to call someone, a plumber or somebody to come in and fix it, go ahead and do that. And try to get the problem resolved if you can. Then you go and file your claim with the adjuster. When you call the insurance company, say, what paperwork do you need? Because one delay tactic that we see is you'll give them everything you think they need, and they'll come back and say, oh, well, we need this form. Well, we need proof of this. Ask them on the front end, what do you need? And then you do your best to get them that all in one packet. Keep a copy of everything you have, talk to the adjuster. And then if you don't get satisfactory results in 30, 60, 90 days, you should reach out for a lawyer, because in Alabama, there is a tight window on how long you have to file your lawsuit. We've seen situations where an insurance company will just keep stringing you along. Oh, we'll do this for you, we'll do that for you, but you got to give us this paperwork. And they drag that thing out past 2 years, and then you've lost some of your rights because you've waited too long. Even though the insurance company has told you they'll work with you, they didn't really intend to work with you, and so you've lost some of your rights. So I would say 30, 60, 90 days, if you're not getting where you want to be, you probably need to start thinking about calling a lawyer.
Another important point you just made, document everything you do when you're dealing with the adjuster and put as much in writing as you can.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Certainly important. Well, Roman, thank you. Most people watching the show have some form of insurance, and hopefully this will be a good community service if you have problems. Thank you, Roman, for being the guest this evening. That's all the time we have. You can watch the Beasley Allen Report on Sunday nights after the news at 10. For more information about cases Beasley Allen is currently working on, visit our website at beasleyallen.com. Thank you. And if you have any questions, you can email me directly at gibson@beasleyallen.com.